Children, in the last class, we saw that directions alone are not enough to exactly determine the location of place on the earth. This difficulty can be solved if line parallels to each other are drawn around the earth. We'll move to the slide. First, we are going to learn about earth and the globe. Can we draw such lines on the earth? Let us see. Okay, look at the figure that shows the earth's size. That is the first figure. Look at that. The length of earth's diameter along the north south direction, that is the standing line, is 12,714 kilometers, and the length of the earth's diameter along the east west direction, that is the sleeping line, is 12,756 kilometers. So this shows us that the earth is very large in size. Now, the oceanic waters, uneven nature of the land, forest, innumerable islands of different sizes, and buildings make it possible to actually draw such lines on the earth. In order to overcome this difficulty, geographers developed a miniature model of the earth. Now, what is a miniature model of the earth? That means a small model. Miniature means small, in the form of a globe. You can see in the picture, the third picture, that is a globe. This can be used to determine the locations on the earth. Now, what does globe help us to determine the location, different locations on the earth? One can actually draw vertical and horizontal lines on the globes, though not on the earth. We can draw horizontal and vertical lines on the globe, but we can't draw lines on the earth. Thus, they are called imaginary lines on the earth. Now you can see this is our planet Earth, the second picture. As you see here, there are no lines on planet Earth. Can you see any lines? No. In fact, you see this line over here. This is not an actual line. Now, which line? The red line. Can you see? That is not the actual line. This is an imaginary line. We have this line so that people can understand that the earth rotates on an axis. Now, what is this red line called? It is called an axis, and that's an imaginary axis which we have drawn. But this is not the only line which we have drawn. This is not the only line. So there are so many imaginary lines which we draw on planet Earth for our convenience. For our convenience means to make it easy. Okay. Now we'll move to the next. That is the angular distance. Now, what do you mean by angular distance, and how do we measure an angular distance? An angular distance helps us to determine the location. How to find out the angular distance? We will see that now. The location of any place on the earth is determined with the reference to the center of the earth. Now look at the picture. Now, what is the center of the earth over here? Now, the center, there's a circle. What is the center point? The center point is M. In order to find it out, we need to consider a straight line. Now, can you see from point M, a straight line is drawn? A straight line, that means from point M to point V, there is a straight line drawn, that is on the surface at the center of the earth. Let's see with an example. Here a line has been drawn from point of the surface, that is from the surface of the earth. Now another line is drawn. You can see that is X. Can you see from point M? Another line is drawn, that is X, and it has joined from the center of the earth. That means from M it is joined. So that's the center of point. From M to X it is joined. That is an equatorial plane, that is M. So M is an equatorial plane that divides the earth into two equal parts. Here at this plane, it makes an angle with the plane of the equator. Now, can you see an angle is made? First, we draw the line from M to V. Okay, that's from the center of the earth, and then after we draw the line from M to X. So now you can see there is an angle become X and V. That is an angle. The measure of this angle will be used to determine the location. For example, the measure of the angle is 30 degree. You can see over there XMV is how much? 30 degree. That is an angular distance from the equator, that is 30 degree. Now observe the figure again. See in the figure one more plane passes through X. Now you have to watch the figure again. Now can you see point X? From point X there is another plane drawn. Another circle is drawn, that is in blue dotted line, the top circle from point X. And this plane is parallel to the equatorial plane. Now this blue circle is parallel, right, to the equatorial plane, means the black circle and the blue circle, they are parallel. It forms a circle on the surface. Any point on the circle of an equatorial plane forms an angle of 30 at the center of the earth. So that is also 30 degrees. Students, now look at the figure and tell the angular distance of y from the equator. Can you see y over there? From the equator. Observe the diagram carefully and try to give the answer. Now, can you see there is one more circle over there, one more plane over there down. That's a very small circle, okay? Observe that and answer. So what will be the angular distance of YMV? Can you see that's a small circle? First we draw a big circle. Now a small circle is drawn. So YMV, now that angle is little bigger. So that angle will be 60 degrees. 60 degree. Can you see over there? Let's move to the next slide. Next we will learn about parallels of latitude. Now there are some more lines drawn. There are some more lines which have been drawn on the entire earth. As I told you before, there is not only one line, there are many other lines drawn on the earth. So by taking equator as a base, can you see in the figure there is an equator which divides the earth into two equal parts. So these lines are parallel to the equator. These lines are called latitudes. Now, all the sleeping lines over there, only the sleeping lines, they are called as latitudes. Now, how are they numbered? They are numbered with equator as 0 degrees Celsius, and then you move towards the poles. You move towards, first you move upwards towards the pole. The number keeps on increasing. From 0 it starts increasing. You have 30 degrees, 60 degree, 90 degree here from top. Similarly, you have minus 30, minus 60, minus 90. That is towards the south. So in the northern hemisphere, the latitudes are growing like this, and they are 0, 30, 60, 90 and so on. Similarly, in the southern hemisphere, we take negative numbers. Negative numbers means you put a minus side of that. That is minus 30, minus 60, minus 90 degree. So when you have any numbers in the negative degrees, that means it is in the southern hemisphere. And if we have it in the positive, that means there is no minus, that means it is in the northern hemisphere. Now there is another way in which numbers are written. While in the northern hemisphere you have 0, 30, 60, 90. You can also write it as the northern hemisphere. It will be 30 degrees north. That means 30 degree N I have written over there. And for the southern hemisphere it will be 30 degree S. So you see, for every numbers of latitudes on the southern hemisphere, you can write there as 30 degree S, 60 degree S. Okay, S means south and so on. And in the northern hemisphere, you can write as at 30 degree N, 60 degree N and so on. So this is how we number the latitudes on our planet Earth. Now, another important factor is all these lines are parallel to the equator. Okay, they are all parallels. Now, I told you only the sleeping lines. So, it is called as parallels of latitudes. Move to the next slide. Next is the equator, northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere, north pole and the south pole. Now the most important line here is the equator. Can you see a black color line? That is called as the equator. Now what does the equator does? It divides the earth into two equal parts, and when it divides the earth into two equal parts, it divides it into the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere. Okay. We'll move to the next slide. That is your homework. Is you have to find the answers of these questions. The first question is what is latitude? Second is what is a globe? And the third is what is equator? Okay. That's all for now. We will learn more about this lesson in the next video. Thank you for listening, children. Goodbye. Take care.